Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now celebrating 17 years of broadcasting success, here's your host, Cyrus-Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus-Webb. Glad you all could join us once again, both for our radio audience here in Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com. We welcome you all to our broadcast. Also, those tuning into our online affiliates around the world, including our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcasts. Glad you all could be with us as well. Well, everyone has a story to tell, and some stories, I think, are not only inspiring, but also remind us of where we've come from, but also the work ahead. We're excited to welcome to our program today producer Margaret Young. We're going to talk to her not only about her own love of telling stories through film, but also about a powerful new film that she's working on that she wants to share with you all about an individual that many of us may not have even known about. And know before I first heard about this segment, I was not as familiar about the subject we're going to talk about, but also about why we should not only know the story, but also how we can benefit from learning about it as well. Margaret, thank you so much for the time today. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I'm thrilled to tell it. And what a great introduction. Those are super questions.
Well, this is the interesting thing. I want to first give a much-deserved shout-out to my good friend Charles Barrett, who first introduced you to me, Margaret. And when I had to look up, the name Patrice-Lumumba, because I was not familiar with the individual or their history. I'm sure you're getting that a lot. So what is it like for you to help tell the story?
You know, I think I'm older than you are. I think people my age, I'm in my 60s, have a bit of history with Patrice Lumumba, but I think very few people outside of the African continent know who he was and the significance. He was assassinated after just 7 months as the Prime Minister of the Republic of Congo, the Independent Republic of Congo. Just an amazing life. But one of the important things is that the country of Belgium, who had colonized the Congo, and the United States of America were both complicit in the assassination of Lumumba. We know that now because the people who were involved have written memoirs, and it happened in 1961. So we're that many years later, and we know a lot of the details. But there's so much with this story that when you start digging, I think the time to tell it is right now. I see a rebirth in the DR Congo. If you look at what the State Department reports about the Congo, if you want to travel with us and see what we're doing, it'll tell you not to because it'll say that it's really dangerous. But it's coming out of that. Really what happened after Lumumba's assassination was Joseph Mobutu was put in as the president, and he kind of made himself a god and was there from 1965 till 1997 and really almost single-handedly ruined the country with his kleptocracy. It became a country of theft and corruption, which was the opposite, of course, of what we wanted, which was unity. Lumumba stood not just for unity within the various tribes in the Congo, but all of Africa. He was a Pan-Africanist, and Malcolm X said he was the most significant black man to ever walk on the African continent.
So a couple of things here that I think would be of interest and value to our radio audience as well as our online audience here, Margaret. So when did you first discover a Lumumba story?
I knew, there are a lot of streets named Lumumba, so I was familiar with the name. I knew that he had been a leader in the Congo, but really, I started traveling to the Congo in 2014, and I just had such dear friends there, and I saw that it was kind of like being in a tar pit. It was so hard for people to make progress. Education is not free. You have to pay for education, and even if you are able to go to a place, if you're in a poor area, if you're able to go to school, they won't necessarily have electricity or any kind of energy, meaning you can't access the internet. They may not have books. There are just things that we take for granted so much. So my heart was looking for ways to use stories, and initially we did life stories. I taught people how to bind their own books, and we gathered their life stories, which were just fascinating. But as we made a couple of films with this wonderful group of filmmakers who made films without any promise that they would be successful because there were no cinemas. You couldn't make a living to support your family if you were a filmmaker, because the business, the industry did not exist. It's just being born now, and it's an exciting time. But my thought was, bring back Patrice-Lumumba, who was the father of independence, and see what happens with this. If we bring back the man who was taken down before he could do what he wanted to do, what impact will it have in 2021 on the people there who are, the Congo is usually listed as sometimes as the poorest country on earth, even though it has every mineral that you can imagine. Your cell phone came from the Congo. The wiring in the cell phone, the colchan, came from there. It came via China. China mined it in the Congo, but you have a bit of Congo with you now if you have a cell phone.
Yeah.
And the uranium for the atomic bomb, the one over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that's Congo. 96% of the uranium in that bomb was from the Congo, which also lets you understand why Belgium and the USA wanted to get rid of this man. He had such power there, and there were such rich minerals.
So let's talk about the undertaking. I mean, I think, for anyone who is passionate about storytelling, any type of storytelling, I mean, there is, of course, the excitement of it, but also the pressure of it. Does the team feel any added pressure knowing that not only the historic nature of the man, but also the weight of the story that it's going to have on the lives of others?
I think that's much more in the Congo than it is here, because there are so many people like you who haven't really heard of Patrice Lumumba. That's not the case in the Congo and in other African countries. When we let the word out, or our team in the Congo, because we support. We are not doing this film. We are supporting them to tell their own story. That's one of the really important mottos of how we do our work. That we're just catalysts. But as people there learned that our director was holding auditions for this man, that it was just wildfire. Such excitement that there would be a significant story. And the whole thing was, this is our story, and we will be telling it. It won't be Europeans telling the story of the Congo. This will be us, and we're going to tell it. But you remember that there was no cinema established. So when we made our other two films, part of what we needed to do was to equip them to film well. They were able to have cameras that were not terribly good. And, of course, in some African countries, they've used their telephones to make films. Like Nigeria has a whole industry that was started on cell phones. But every person who went to the Congo as a part of this initiative took equipment. I took lighting. My brother took cameras. Some of our actors took computers. It was let us give you the equipment. We know you can do this. And there were no cinemas there. Our director had not even stepped inside a cinema until he was 16 years old. And when he was in Paris, France, he was able to go to a cinema. He already wanted to be a filmmaker, but it was his first time. And when the film was over, they said, it's over now. You need to leave. And he said, just 5 more minutes, please. I've never been in a cinema. Just let me watch 5 more minutes.
Wow. That's powerful. And I think that's why, again, stories like this are so important. Individuals their stories being recognized is so important. I want to say, for those who are just tuning in, either on the radio side or online, you're listening to Conversations Live. We're excited to welcome Margaret Young to our program today. She's one of the producers that's part of this project, Patrice-Lumumba, with Congo-Rising. We're going to let you all know how to stay connected with the updates there. You bring up something I want to definitely make sure I ask you about, Margaret. How important was it for you to have it filmed entirely there? I know you mentioned about Congo-Rising being here in the States, but how important was it for you to make sure that the production took place there?
Appropriation is a huge issue. And for people in the United States, it's so easy to say, let us tell your story for you. We've got all of the equipment. We have all of the resources. In the United States, I am able to access things online. I'm able to go to academic places. My husband and I are professors, and we can go to places where you have to have a degree to get their books. So I was able to access all sorts of things to make a start on the script. The lack of equipment is so huge. So there has to be a marriage of providing access and then trusting them to do the job. All of these young people who are doing Patrice Lumumba, they're all Congolese. Americans stepped several steps back to honor them, to honor the man, Patrice-Lumumba. There's a very fine film about him that was made in 2000 by Raoul Peck, who's Haitian, and it's about his political life, but it wasn't filmed in the Congo because they thought the Congo was too dangerous to accommodate a film team. It is not, our goal is within 10 years that the Congo will be a place where people say, oh, that's where they make really good movies, right? Instead of, oh, that's where there's a lot of kidnapping and killing, right? So we actually, I ended up through serendipity, miracles, I would actually say, being in the area where Lumumba was raised. So I saw the beauty of it, and I was astonished. I had never seen anything that beautiful. Pristine, just this virgin land with all sorts of lakes and streams. And he fished. He loved fishing. And then he taught himself French because his native language was not French, it was Tetela. And then ultimately became a poet, an orator, and then one of the major speakers throughout Africa, not just in Congo, with the African People's Conference in Ghana in 1958. Lumumba was on the steering committee. He spoke throughout. It spoke in Nigeria. It spoke almost everywhere except South Africa because of apartheid. But he was the voice of, along with Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, of Pan-African unity. Let us work together to have one enormous impact. The way that any country fails is through tribalism. If the tribes can be turned against each other, and tribes can be anything, they can be races, religions, whatever. But that's if there's that kind of infighting, success won't happen. And
right.
We are going with Lumumba's ideals and letting the history of the Congo just sit where it is and bringing Lumumba back.
So to that point then, I think, for those who, like myself, who might just be discovering who Patrice Lumumba is, and I should say for our radio audience, when they hear me say the name, I'm sure their ears are kind of perking up. Margaret, you wouldn't know this probably from where you live, but actually the mayor of the capital of Mississippi is Chokwe Lumumba.
I do know that. I looked him up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so his father, of course, was mayor previous to him. He also was Chokwe Lumumba, and so it was interesting for me again when Charles first sent me the pitch for this segment. I was like, this is going to be really of interest to I think our local audience, but also our international audience as well. So I want to ask you this. The reason why I bring that up is because there will be connections. Even as I was prepping for this segment, after actually learning, who Patrice Lumumba is, and starting to look up information. All right, does it surprise you that, as the saying goes, the more things change, the more things stay the same, that we are still dealing with in the world where ideas are snuffed out, people are snuffed out when you don't fit what people expect, or if they do not like what you stand for, that we are still in a world where freedom and the ideals that can be seen as forward-moving are not always appreciated.
That is an excellent way to phrase that. In the 60s, basically, you've got Dr. King, Malcolm X, and Patrice Lumumba. Those are our three heroes who are all assassinated. In 2021, here we are in Black History Month, and we've had a resurgence, a greater appreciation, I think, with more attention to the Black Lives Matter movement, and it's global. It's not just in the USA. So I'm looking at the moment. Because throughout Europe, in our particular thing, monuments of Lumumba have been getting put up. And the king who colonized the Congo, King Leopold II of Belgium, he was vicious. He was brutal. 10 million Congolese people and that many elephants, because they were gathering ivory, were killed under King Leopold's rule. And statues of him have had red paint poured over them, and they've been put away. They've been knocked down. And Lumumba is coming back to replace the colonizer, Leopold II. As we are still not. I think in the last 4 years or more, the face of racism has shown itself almost shamelessly, and we are called to a new level of responsibility. Teach Black history, but also to figure out new ways where we don't see some of what we see. I'm working on a case right now with a young woman who I witnessed her court case, and I saw the judge deny due process. So and it was race-based. It was absolutely race-based. I filed a complaint against the judge. Those are some things that I do in my private life that says this is not just something, I don't just put a BLM shirt on or, carry a banner. This is my life. This is a lot of what I do.
And I think that is why this work not only continues, but also will be remembered because of exactly that, Margaret, that there are people who are willing to stand up and people who are willing to make sure these stories get told. And I definitely want to encourage our audience. In fact, I'm going to make sure that we post the Facebook fan page for Congo-Rising with this podcast, because I think I definitely want our audience to stay connected with it, to follow the movement, and to do their part to help spread the word. So congo-rising.org is the website. At this particular time, Margaret, I know you said the work is being done there. Are you traveling back and forth? How are you being involved this year?
Not during COVID.
Okay.
Right. So our director, Chopin Kabambi, got stuck with us because of COVID. We were doing premieres of our earlier films here, and no flights were going out to Europe, and to get back to the Congo, you have to go through some sites that were closed. So he was stuck with us for 5 months. We are scheduling our travel to return there in August. We think that we'll be able to fly. It's difficult until things are till we're back to a new normal. Flight is not really possible. So, but I want to invite your mayor. Is it your mayor who's Chokwe Lumumba? I want to invite him to come with us, because I believe that his father chose that name. Am I correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, he knows the legacy. We would love to have him come. I'm serious.
Well, I will make sure that he gets this, and I have friends who are close to him. I will make sure that he knows about that invitation, and we will also. He's very active on Twitter as well, Margaret. I'll make sure I tag him on Twitter with the link.
Okay. To this. And I see, as old as I am, I don't do Twitter. I can, but I'm not really good at that. My children do.
I understand. You bring up, there's one last thing I want to ask you, Margaret, and again, and we're going to remind our audience again about the website, because you mentioned about the travel, which is such an interesting thing, but also COVID. We cannot, of course, have a conversation right now without mentioning that. So how are the people of Congo, how are they dealing with the pandemic?
They had a hard time. I've got many friends there, and I'm not aware of anybody who lost a loved one, but one of my friends who's a Catholic priest had his brother who was in intensive care, and they thought that he was going to die of COVID, but didn't. It's a country of 80 million people, so it's densely populated. I don't actually. I'm not up to date on how things are going. We are in communication with our team there in the Congo daily, and nobody has said much of anything.
Okay.
Do you mind if I just tell you about our director just for a second? Do you have time for that?
Oh, no, sure, definitely.
Because that was, you're talking about stories. This is, because I was doing the life stories of people as part of a literacy initiative where they give me their life stories, I write them down. I had access to a computer and a printer. Remember, these are some things that people don't necessarily have access to. So I was able to bind the books and then teach them how to do bookbinding. So I did the oral history of our director's mother, Celestine, and she told about when she was born in 1965. So this is after Lumumba was assassinated and Joseph Mobutu was the president of Congo. And things went immediately just so bad. And Celestine's mother was almost full term with her, and there was an enemy tribe that was chasing her. She ran, went into labor in a forest, gave birth to Celestine, and then she died. The father was of the tribe Luba, and if people who really know the Lumumba story will recognize that tribe, because that was the tribe that was used to kill Lumumba. There was some tribal enmity. But the father was Tetela, and that's Lumumba's tribe. So our director actually has the ancestry of Lumumba's own tribe, His mother speaks Tetela. Our director does not. And he has ancestry of the tribe that was used to kill Lumumba. When we had Chopin with us in the area where Lumumba was raised, and what he didn't know was that his great aunt, who raised his mother raised his grandmother after she passed away, was there. None of us knew that, but we were able to find her and able to have a reunion. Chopin, our director, did not speak her language, which is Tetela, and so we had an interpreter, but she just wept the whole time. And then I made arrangements to get some money so that we could get Chopin's mother. It's a 3-hour flight from Kinshasa to the place where we were working in Lodja, and we got the mother there. And one of the things you can see on our website on Congo-Rising is just the 1 minute where this woman who was raised by her great aunt meets her again after 40 years. It's a very emotional minute.
Wow. Those stories, I think build appreciation, as well as, of course, remind us of this history that is so important and that still lives, and I think it still impacts so many. Margaret, that's why we're so glad to have you again. Margaret Young, everyone, one of the producers on this project, Patrice-Lumumba. Make sure you guys do visit congo-rising.org. Again, for our podcast audience, we will link that up, as well as the Facebook fan page as well. And Margaret, would love to have you back. Progress.
I would love to do that, Cyrus. What a good interview. This was just great.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I will make sure that this gets to Mayor Lumumba, because I think he would definitely be interested in being able to discover what you all are doing, if he does not already know, which he probably does. I'm probably just one of the late ones here. So he probably is aware of it as well.
I don't remember how I found his name. I think I was researching Patrice Lumumba, and I found the name and said, wait a minute. And because, one thing was looking for Lumumba's family members, and we are connected. We have some of his family members helping us with this. But when I saw that, I researched and saw that the father had chosen the name, and then I thought, you know who he was, so I would love to talk to the father. Has passed away now. Is that correct?
Exactly. The father has passed away, and the son actually succeeded him as mayor. Yeah.
Chakwe Lumumba.
So,
yeah. I would love to. It would be so fun to have a political leader from the United States go to the Congo. We do work with the Minister of Tourism in the Congo, who wants to use film as a way to show the world the beauties of the Congo, and that it's a peaceful people. It's the things that you may have heard about the Congo. When I would tell people that I was going to the Congo, they would just be terrified that I was probably going to get kidnapped and killed. And I've been there 7 times, staying for quite long periods of time. It is the most beautiful, peaceful place I've been. Just absolutely gorgeous.
Wow. Well, I look forward to being able to see this story being told, Margaret, and definitely staying connected with you for the updates. And we definitely thank your audience for tuning in to this special segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus-Webb, saying, as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Now let's go make today amazing. Take care.